Hey, what's up, everybody? Chicago Gooner here, bringing another Arsenal talk. Well, it's good to be back. It's good to be back in the United States. Loved my time in London, uh, but within this Arsenal talk, I'll be covering uh, a little bit of the Monaco game, a little bit of the Everton game, and also my time in London. Um, I was gonna make it in two, like basically like two different parts, but uh, I just figured, what the hell? I'll just do it in one. It'll probably be, somewhat long. Uh, I'll probably be doing like the trip to London stuff after the games. So if you want to stick around and listen to that and listen to my experience and whatnot, feel free. If not, totally understand that. Um, but start off with the Monaco game. Of course, it was my first Arsenal game ever, being inside the stadium, seeing a live game, seeing a live Arsenal game at least. Great experience all in all. But just to go into the game a little bit, the first like 8 to 10 minutes of the match, we were dangerous. We were we came out fast. We came out dangerous. We were doing some like over the top balls, and we were really using our pace on the wings with Welbeck and Sanchez. Um, Everything looked good from the start. If a bookmaker or a bookie came up to me within the first like 5 minutes of the game and said, you have 100 to 1 odds that all you have to do is put down like 100 pounds, and you'll have 100 to 1 odds to win the game, and we'll pay it out. I would have thrown down 100 pounds without even thinking about it. I thought there's no way in hell that Monaco could ever beat us, especially if you watch the first 8 to 10 minutes of the game. Of course, after that, who knows what the fuck happened to the players? It just seemed like everything went dead. It seems like they had it in their heads, if we didn't score within the first 5 to 8 minutes of the game, that the game was lost, because that's what it seemed like. After those first 8 to 10 minutes, it seemed like everything slowed down. Everything was like in slow motion almost. Um, it was just an odd game, honestly. Anytime that at least from my point of view, I had great seats. I was in the East Stand, section 14, row 2, seat 428. It was just beautiful. I mean, couldn't have asked for any better seats to see my first Arsenal game, and had a clear view of everything. Even looking down at the clock end, which they started on, started out the game, and you could see everything. You could see everything happening, especially near like near our touch line. It was just the site was beautiful, but you could see everything that was going on, like in the midfield, down near the clock end, everything, and everything just looked slow. Everything slowed down for whatever reason. And one of the main gripes I have is it seemed like everybody was like a statue almost. Anytime that Santi or even Ozil got on the ball, it just seemed like players stood still. They were ball watching a lot, unfortunately. Um, the one player who made himself dangerous throughout most of the time he was on the pitch, actually, was Olivier Giroud. Yeah, he missed. I mean, he had like something like 6 or 7 attempts, and probably 4 of those were sitters, and he missed every single one of them. And it was just, it was shocking. It was shocking to see that. It was shocking to see of the way that we were playing throughout the entire game, especially after about that 8 to 10 minute mark. Again, it just seemed like everybody was standing still, like they were, depending on one player to do everything, and you just can't play like that throughout a game. Um, our back four was wide open. It was, Coughlin didn't have like the greatest of games in that Monaco game. I know he came out late in the game, but Prior to that, um, it was mostly Murdersacker's fault, to be honest with you. He was pushed way too far forward. Why he was like that, I have no idea. Um, Kashoni, the poor guy. I mean, he was left out on an island by himself throughout most of the game. Of course, he had to use his pace on a number of occasions to get back and to try to cover. That second goal that we let in by Berbatov, um, that started the break, which was Murdersacker. Who knows what the fuck was going through his head during that type of challenge when, um, that was like a 50-50 challenge, maybe even almost like a 60-40 challenge. If he was going to miss that challenge, they were screwed. Um, when it's those type of odds, even if it's 50-50, when it's those type of odds for Murdersacker, given his pace, that he can never track back fast enough, he shouldn't be making those type of challenges. He shouldn't be moving that far forward to make a challenge like that, knowing full well that Coughlin is pushed forward. Because after that first goal, I mean, it was like uh, we panicked almost. We were like in panic mode all of a sudden. Yeah, I mean, it came in, what, about like the 30th minute or something like that. There's still 60 some odd minutes left in the game, and we were already in panic mode. I know some people were kind of yelling that, maybe that it was good for us that we got scored upon because it you know, it gave us the opportunity to wake up, I guess you could say, to where we just fell asleep. Like after that 10th minute, it just seemed like we were sleepwalking throughout the rest of the game. And, a lot of Arsenal fans of how they expressed that during the game, arrogance, pure arrogance. They had it all in their head that, it's Monaco, we should win no problem. They are, other than maybe Basel and maybe Porto, they're probably, the worst team left in the competition. And I think even the players were convinced by media, fans, maybe even Arsene Wenger that this should be an easy game. And I don't care what, I don't care if it's still even in the group stage. I don't care what competition it is. Especially when you're in Champions League, I mean, Monaco is even one of the best defensive teams in Ligue 1. Even going into this game, they were the best defensive team in the Champions League. But yet, we're coming out when we're playing like we're playing a League 2 side. That we don't have any problems, we don't have anything to worry about, which is ridiculous. The players should never think on that type of level. But unfortunately, that's how we thought, and that's how we played. And it was just kind of ridiculous. But going back to whenever Santi and Mesut Ozil were on the ball, it just seemed like everybody was standing still. That includes Sanchez, that includes Welbeck, that includes Olivier Giroud made all the runs he was supposed to make. He just couldn't finish them. It just wasn't his night, and it just wasn't our night completely. The one thing I don't understand about the game is after we scored late in the game, Oxlade-Chamberlain, beautiful, curling shot, happened on my end. It was just, it ignited the crowd even more. I'll get into the crowd and what happened. Like, it's going to be kind of shocking what I'm going to be telling you, like after this. But, even after we scored that first goal, why on God's earth we kept on pressing forward? There was only about like 3-4 minutes left in the game, and we were still bombing forward. We're all 11 in front of the midway line, midfield line, and we're still trying to bomb forward to equalize the game. I don't understand that. It was pretty obvious, even at that point of the game, it wasn't our night. There was nothing that was going to work for us. None of the bounces worked for us. We were unlucky on a lot of chances. Giroud couldn't finish for the life of him. Sanchez couldn't finish. Theo couldn't finish. Welbeck couldn't. No one could finish at all. Uh, it didn't matter what we did. Uh, if we had to pull off some type of goal, it would have to be a great shot, like Oxlade-Chamberlain's goal. But again, why on God's earth that we kept on trying to press forward with there's only 3 or 4 minutes left in the game? Because to me, I'd rather be down 2-1 going into the second leg than 3-1. It's a lot easier to go to Monaco and win 2-0 than now having to go to Monaco and win 3-0, because that's what we have to do. We need three. It needs to be 3-0, 3-0 to win the game, to win the leg, and to go on to the quarterfinals now. And that's tough to do. Wouldn't you rather be 2-1 down rather than 3-1 down? And of course, the guy who did get us the goal and, made the mistake, Oxlade-Chamberlain, tried to, take on a defender, and defender poked the ball away, got, regained possession, and of course that came out with the third goal, which was just, that was the stake in the heart. That really killed everybody, that third goal. Regardless of saying, even if Oxley didn't get that goal, we would still be, we still have to score 3, or we still would only have to score 2 goals at Monaco. But now we have to score 3, because they have 3 away goals, and that was the killer. That was the absolute killer, and I still don't understand of why we kept on trying to press forward that late in the game. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And of course that goes right on top of Arsene Wenger. I tried to watch him throughout the game as much as I could, as far as like watching the game, and then peeking over at what Arsene Wenger was doing. He wasn't doing anything. He was sitting on his chair like normal and not doing anything at all. Not getting up, not trying to bark orders, any type of orders to the guys. Not trying to be a leader. Again, it's the same thing with Arsene, game after game, of not trying to impose himself and trying to be a leader, because we were leaderless. Mertesacker might have been wearing the armband, but he wasn't acting like a leader out there. He wasn't trying to communicate. There was like zero communication between the back line. I heard Gibbs' voice twice early on in the game, and that was it. Never saw Koscielny. Never saw Ospina was trying to bark orders once in a while, but there was no communication between Ospina, Koscielny, Mertesacker, Bellerin, or Gibbs throughout that whole fucking game. And that's shocking. That is very shocking when you think of a club like Arsenal. I've been to a couple Chicago Fire games here in Chicago, and they're not the greatest team in the world. They're not even one of the better teams in the MLS, but yet the couple games that I have gone to, their back line is constantly communicating. Constantly communicating. There is no communication whatsoever between the back line. I know Mertesacker and Koscielny, they played together for a long ass time. They played together for like 2 or 3 seasons by now. And, maybe they know each other well enough that they don't need to communicate throughout the entire game. But again, there is no communication whatsoever. When you have a new, inexperienced fullback like Hector Bellerin, still trying to learn the ropes, still trying to gain experience throughout the time, and there is just nothing. There is nothing there, and that's probably one of the more shocking parts of the game. And ultimately, it killed us to have zero communication between the back line. If you're not going to have that type of communication, why isn't Gabriel playing then? If you're not going to be talking during the game, what's the point? If that's how they conduct themselves on the pitch, in a Champions League match, which was one of the more important games that we've had probably in the last couple of years. Especially at the Emirates in front of the home fans, and there's like zero communication whatsoever. It was really shocking. And of course, you have Arsene Wenger just sitting on the sidelines, not doing much of anything. Yeah, he made the right substitutions. He was going after it. For once, I was, once Oxley came on, I was completely shocked. First, he brought on Theo, and then he brought in Oxley, and then he brought in Rosicky late in the game. And I was kind of shocked. I was shocked that he brought on Theo Walcott that early in the 60th minute. He brought on Oxlade Chamberlain 10 minutes later. I was shocked by that because we haven't seen that in a long ass time, to where he's like, you know what, I'm going after it. We have to get these 2 goals back. We need to put every attacking talent that we have on the bench on the pitch. So that was kind of shocking. But again, he made the right moves as far as the substitutions go. But it didn't matter. It didn't matter if we even brought on CR7 or Messi into that game. There's nothing that we could do because everybody was just standing still. There was no real fluidity in the entire game. To go on to the last part of this, and this is probably the most shocking part. It's more shocking than Arsene Wenger sitting on the bench doing nothing. More shocking than the back line not even communicating. It has to do with the Arsenal fans. Again, I was sitting in section 14, row 2, seat 428. It's on the east end. It's embarrassing as well for, Giroud wasn't having the best game, obviously. Again, he missed about like 4 sitters. He had about 6 or 7 shots on at the target. He missed all 7 of them. He should have scored at least 3 or 4 of those. Again, it just wasn't. I mean, whatever was in the air that night, whatever was in the water, it just wasn't his night at all. But how the fans conducted themselves against Olivier Giroud during that game, embarrassing. It's almost as embarrassing as the racist Chelsea fans. It really is. Sitting there during the game, after he missed maybe like his second sitter, that's when people really started to get on Olivier Giroud. Here's a player who, gives his heart and soul to the club, who busts his ass every single game just about, who does more than just about any striker in the world. You can watch other strikers in the world and they don't work as hard as Olivier Giroud does for Arsenal. There's not too many strikers who will track back 40, 50 yards to help out defensively. There's not too many strikers who will help out at all defensively. Here's a guy who has scored currently with the goal against Everton, 51 goals for the club. That's more than the asshole that left us after the 12th season, who went up to Manchester so he could quote-unquote win trophies. He has more goals than him in the same amount of time. I don't know about the games or appearances, but in the same amount of time, in the same time frame, he has scored more goals than that fucking asshole that went up to Manchester United. But he misses a few sitters, and the whole world's against him. I wasn't involved in it. It was, I would never be involved in it. If you want to slate a player, I've said this plenty of times before in some of my Arsenal talks. If you want to slate a player, go ahead. As long as there's logic behind it, as long as it's not personal. If you want to bag on him for his play, if he's not hustling, if he's not playing well, that's fine. As long as there's logic behind it, as long as you sound knowledgeable, go ahead and do it. I'm all for it. I've done it plenty of times on Arsenal talks throughout doing all these Arsenal talks. But I would never make it personal. Because I don't know these players. I don't know them personally. I don't know how they are off the pitch. Not that I care anyway, because that's just a whole another dimension of some fans think they are entitled to talk about players however they like. But during the game, after like the second sitter that he missed, some fans were saying, "Go and step in front of a bus." After the game, go and step in front of a bus. Another fan yelled out, "I hope you die, cunt." Another fan said, "Go back to France and I hope you die there." Um, it was pretty shocking to hear that from Arsenal fans or people who call themselves Arsenal fans who supposedly support the club, who supposedly have season tickets. I know as a player they probably heard everything by now in their career, whether you've been playing for 10 years, 15 years, 5 years, 2 years. Plenty of players come out and say that they even get letters in the mail for like death threats and everything, and some of them stay off Twitter because they get threats from fans, even their own fans. I'm sure they've heard it all, especially being at the Emirates. Now I know how kind of like awful it could be sitting at the Emirates, especially if they're losing. Certain stuff that fans like to say to players, and they like to rag on them and everything. But when you make it personal like that, when you start saying "I hope you die," that's over the top. That's going way over the top. One guy behind me, he tried to claim that he was a season ticket holder, and you know, he was one of the guys that says, "I hope you go and step in front of a bus after the game," and he was ragging on Drew pretty hard throughout the game, and I just kind of turned to him and I said, how does that help him? How does that help the players? How does that help any of the players when they have to hear that type of stuff? Because the guy was loud enough and we were close enough to the pitch that they could hear it. They could honestly probably hear what these guys were saying to him. And I turned to him and I said, how does that help him? How does that help him play better? I mean, if I heard that as a player, I would say, what, fuck the fans, fuck this club, and not play as hard as I could. Because if that's the way that some fans are gonna treat me, why not? Why should I give my heart and soul to the club if there's going to be fans like this? I know it's in a minority, but at the same time, it's just ridiculous. And the guy, he told me to shut up because he knew that I was only like a single, I was only there for a single game, and that he was a season ticket holder. And I said, I don't care. What you just said was inappropriate. It was childish. It was immature. And a lot of the other fans around me were looking at the guy too, and the guy pretty much shut up after that. He was ragging on like the side judge for the rest of the game, and he pretty much kind of like stayed quiet after that because he kind of realized of how stupid he sounded by telling one of our best players, who's been giving his heart and soul to this club since he's been here, who busts his ass every single game, to go step in front of a bus. I mean, it was just shocking, and to go on to the rest of the game of how shitty it was. I mean, it was just a everybody was just gutted after it. I mean, everybody was silent. It was just it was like a ghost town throughout most of the game because I think everybody was just in shell shock of what happened, what we were witnessing in front of our eyes. I guess for me, it was the wrong time to actually go to a game, but is there hope? I'll probably cover this, in a couple of weeks when they play them again at Monaco. I'll probably go in a little bit more that there is a little bit of hope that we can come out and play our game instead of trying to let Monaco dictate the game. But going on to the Everton game, that's enough about the Monaco game. I'll cover a little bit more of it going into my time in London. But going into the Everton game, I know everybody was pretty much on edge, scared even, looking for some type of response, looking for a response from the players. Were the players going to still come out shell-shocked, not confident whatsoever going into this game against Everton? Of course, Everton was coming off of a big win, I guess you could say, against Young's Boys. A lot of people were scared because they moved on in the Europa League, and people were praising Everton and that they were starting to become in form. But again, it was Young Boys. Come on. I watched the game on Thursday at my hotel. They had it on, and they looked okay. But again, it was Young Boys. I mean, it wasn't anybody special that they played against. It was a team that they should have beat. But again, coming into this game, um, we were looking for a response from the players. We were looking for a response from Arsene Wenger. We were looking for a response from the fans themselves too, because again, during that Monaco game, it was like a ghost town for the most part. And I'll get into that a little bit later, but um, coming out of the gates, you know, going from comparing to the Monaco game to the Everton game, the Monaco game, we had no idea what we wanted to do. We had no ideas whatsoever of moving forward. But then in the Everton game, in the first 15 minutes of the game, you could see that we had ideas. We knew what we wanted to do. The passing was 10 times different because we gave the ball away too much in the Monaco game. The passing was so much better. Santi Gazzola, from start to finish, played a great game. I think he understood his role rather than in the Monaco game was pushing forward. Rather than in the Everton game, he played both sides, box to box. That's his job as a CM, to play box to box. And he played that way. He played like a Jack Wilshere or an Aaron Ramsey, where he really busted his ass to track back a lot and to defend. And he started to get back to that form that he was prior to even the Crystal Palace game, where he was playing really, really great football defensively. Not only on the attacking end, but defensively, he was playing great football. And you saw that in the Everton game. And that's what really made the difference, I think, in this Everton game, was Santi Cazorla and his play as a CM. That he understood his role, and he understand he had to track back and help out Coughlin when he needed to. Defensively, it was a lot better. Gabriel, I thought, had a good game. He had a couple like missteps here and there. That one, of course, with Lukaku, who I think he thought that Lukaku would just give up on the ball, and I think he just misjudged it. It went over his head, and he was trying to kick it back into the center of the park, and I think he just misjudged it. I think he misjudged the speed on the ball. Of course, nerves come into play as well. It's his first Premier League start, and luckily Ospina was aware of what was going on. Ospina was definitely one of the man of the matches, in my opinion. Next to maybe Santi, Ozil, even Koscielny too. You could put him up there on as one of the man of the matches for this Everton game. But Ospina was aware of what was going on, especially with that sequence between Gabriel and Lukaku, and that was the sequence where he had to basically swat the ball out with his hand. He had to come out inside the box and make a sliding challenge on Lukaku, which was kind of shocking because Lukaku just kind of gave up on the ball, I was just like, why would you give up on that ball, knowing full well that the goalkeeper was coming straight out at you to try to make a challenge? And he had to get that challenge right. Either he had to miss the ball or he had to really undercut Lukaku. So because there was no other Everton player around him, but he really had to get that challenge right. And if he didn't, it would have been, it would have been like a complete headache if he didn't get that challenge right. But again, defensively though, on the ball, passing wise, he made a couple good passes. On the ball, he looked comfortable. It seemed like as the game went on, he started to get better and better. Honestly, Mertesacker should be dropped. Other than maybe, even throughout the rest of the season. There's no games really that Mertesacker should even be a part of anymore. To be honest with you, unless Koscielny gets an injury or Gabriel gets an injury, I honestly, he shouldn't be playing for the rest of the season. Because that Monaco game was, he's already had a handful of bad games this season. That was his worst game, if you can even play as worse than he has during this season, and he should just be dropped. You have to find out right now who Gabriel is. You have to find out for the rest of the season because you can't go into the transfer window in the summer and think, well, we don't know who Gabriel is. We don't know if he can play well. We don't know if he can work together with Kashoni. And we don't know if he can play in the Premier League. You have to find that out now. Because if you find out that he can't play, if he can't play in the Premier League, which I think he can, I think all he needs is experience in games and to feel comfortable, which I think he will do. Um, but you need to find that out now because in the transfer window, then you need to go out and buy another center half because Mertesacker is done. He should be done. He should be, next season he should be a squad player. He should be playing in all the Capital One Cup games, the early rounds of the FA Cup, if there's injuries, and that's it. Pretty much what Arsene Wenger did to Thomas Vermaelen. That's what should happen to Per Mertesacker, honestly, because who knows what happened to him from the summer until now. I just don't get it. One of the greatest strengths that Mertesacker has, from his lack of pace, is his awareness and his intelligence on the pitch, his positioning, and it's been piss poor this entire season. You can count on one hand of how many good games that Mertesacker has had this season, which is a concern. It's a very strong concern that you do not want to have, especially in your back line when it's already troubled. When we're already, we're always asking questions about that back line. And we can't have that anymore at Arsenal. So you need to find out what Gabriel is, who he is, can he play at this level, which I think he can, before that summer transfer window opens up again. Because if we don't, we need to go out there and buy another one. We just need to, because we need to get that back line in order before next season. Kind of going to the first goal, it was like training ground. It was like a training ground goal. It was something that you can just tell that they worked on for a while, maybe even during the week after the Monaco game, knowing full well, if you're a side like Arsenal, you should be scoring on a set piece at least once every 2, maybe 3 games at most. But with Arsenal, it's not that case. We're terrible for the most part on set pieces for whatever reason, and we shouldn't be. For given our talent of who's taking the free kicks or who's taking the set pieces, whether it's Mesut Ozil, whether it's Santi Cazorla or Alexis Sanchez, we should be scoring at least one goal on a set piece every 2 to 3 games. That should be the minimum. And that kind of showed. If you saw in the replay, Olivier Giroud was walking into the box and he kind of gave a little bit of a signal to. He was looking over at Mesut Ozil right before he took the corner. He just kind of threw his hands to his side and like he's like, I can take this. Just put it on my foot. And it was a perfect corner from Mesut Ozil to Olivier Giroud. It was kind of shocking that he took it on his right foot because his right foot is awful. But the ball came right to him. It was perfect. It was a perfect corner, and he slammed it in the back of the net. Early in the game he had another sitter. He had a free header earlier in the game, and you're just kind of like, oh my god, because going into the game, of course I watched a replay after I got home after about like an 8-hour flight. I was really rooting for Olivier Giroud and Mesut Ozil because they got so much stick from the fans. It seems like, rightfully so, Giroud missing that many sitters, Mesut Ozil not playing at his best, but they always seem like they're the scapegoats of every single fan. Especially after that Monaco game, you didn't hear too many people complaining of how poorly Alexis Sanchez was playing, or how poorly Danny Welbeck was playing, or how poorly Santi Cazorla played that game. But people wanted to yell and scream about Giroud and Ozil for whatever reason. And I was really rooting for them. I was like, I hope Ozil gets at least one assist. I hope Olivier Giroud scores one goal. And they did it on one sequence. And after that goal went in, I was excited. I was so happy for those two, because let's face the music. There's so many ignorant fans at Arsenal that think they know what they see and they and know what the players do and don't do. You know, so many people are enticed by what the media says, and you know they're so consumed of what the media says. Everything that the media says is truth, rather than making your own opinion, rather than just watching the game yourself and making up your own opinions. They rather just go by what you know the Daily Mail or the Mirror or the Telegraph says every single game, and instead of watching the game and seeing what those guys actually do on the pitch. So that one sequence, that corner, you know, it was a lift. It was a lift to the whole team, especially to those two. That you know that was the confidence they kind of needed back to you know kind of you know some of those fans who were giving so much shit to Giroud in the Monaco game and Ozoli even that was kind of like a middle finger to all those people. Again, you know, I know it's in a minority, but you know that was just a middle finger to those fans saying, you know what, fuck you. We're here to stay. We're here to play for the club, and we're here to play for the fans who actually do support us and do love us. And you know, I couldn't have been more happier for those two in that sequence and afterwards. Because it was definitely, you know, especially with Giroud, it was like a 1,000-pound gorilla lifted off his back, because he definitely needed it more than anybody, because his name was, you know, just in question after that Monaco game. But again, the second goal, again, Mesut Ozil setting up Thomas Rosicky. Of course, it took a little bit of a deflection, but again, the assist counted because it was on target. You know, Mesut Ozil has more assists than any top flight player in 2015. He has 4 assists. He has 3 goals and 4 assists coming back from injury. You know, that's more than you can say about a lot of what they consider top players in the English Premier League. Think about that too. He has more assists than anybody else in 2015, and he was out for what, at least more than half of January. So he's only been back for about a month and a half at most. And he already has more assists than anybody in the Premier League. And, you know, that's something that we need. That's what he needs as well. You know, he looks back at his best. Like, was it his best game against Monaco? No. You know, he was just as, he was at fault just like everybody else was. There was no one player that you could say that wasn't at fault for that Monaco disaster. But again, you know, rooting for him and getting 2 assists. You know, he loves playing against Everton, to be honest with you. I mean, he's had some of his better games against Everton. You know, was it a great all-around performance by Arsenal? No, but it was a comfortable win. At no time when I was watching the game, maybe because I already knew the outcome because I checked the score line once I got off the plane, but you know, at no time, even watching the game, trying to, not trying to be biased or anything during the game of watching it, trying to be unbiased, obviously. Did I ever feel like I was uncomfortable about anything or in watching the game? Because, yeah, Everton had a few chances, but at the same time, at no point in time did they ever look really dangerous. Yeah, they were passing the ball around, and you know they almost kind of like looked like us in the Monaco game, where they had next to no ideas of what they wanted to do with the ball. They looked tired. You know, obviously coming off a Thursday game, playing on a Sunday, they only had a couple days off, but they looked tired. They just didn't look like they had any ideas whatsoever. It looked like Lukaku was probably the only person that really made themselves look dangerous. You know, Ospina came out with a few good saves, but again, those are saves that he should be making. That's a save that a class goalkeeper, what you would expect at Arsenal, to make those type of saves. You know, if you're a bottom half team and stuff, and a goalkeeper makes those type of saves, you're like, oh my God, those are so worldly, and oh, he saved us and he saved the game for us. But no, at Arsenal, that should be normal. That should be what we expect out of a goalkeeper every single game, to make those type of saves. And Ospina did. like I said, he was probably one of the man of the matches, probably the man of the match for myself of those couple, sequences. The one with Gabriel, and then another one with Lukaku, and I believe there was another one with it was either Morales or Barkley. And they had to tip over the crossbar. But again, it's something that we needed. It wasn't the greatest performance, but it was a good performance. It was a solid performance. We made ourselves dangerous. We kept attacking. We kept trying to go after that second goal, even after the first goal. We were playing good defensively. We were well organized. At no time that we were ever really caught on the break, like we were in Monaco. Which that's what we were probably scared of the most, considering that we pretty much put out the same team that we did against Monaco. The only kind of change was really Oxlade-Chamberlain for Danny Welbeck, but overall, good 3 points. We stay in the third position. We're only 4 points off now from Manchester City. Of course, Manchester City lost to Liverpool. In some ways, you were kind of hoping for Liverpool to lose, just because we can distance ourselves from, say, the fourth place and the fifth place. That it would still be about 5 to 6 points off. But even with Liverpool winning, we're 4 points off from Manchester City, and even we can even lose a game, because right now Liverpool, we're up by 3 points, because Liverpool's in fifth now with 48 points. We have 51 points, but we're so superior on goal differential that we can actually even lose a game and still stay in the top four. So, but that game's going to be huge coming up against Liverpool. We have to beat them. Again, it's going to be one of those games that we have to dictate our own destiny. We have to dictate what we want to do within the league, because second place is there for the taking. Because Manchester City is just, they look what we were scared to be against that Liverpool game. And they look exactly what we thought we were going to look like in this Everton game. I know there's a lot of fans prior to the game. It was kind of like 50-50, where fans were confident that we were going to win, and the other half were just kind of like, I don't even want to talk about this game. We're all the like half the fans were on edge and scared, of this game, to even play this game, because Everton's been up and down, and they think that they're, in form going into this game, but they clearly weren't. And we were clearly the better side. Even though if we didn't play our greatest game, we were clearly the better side, the more dangerous side. So again, staying up in that third position, that second place is right there for the taking. Again, top three is probably the most important part of the season. For the rest of the season, I don't care about Champions League or FA Cup. Getting into that top three is so important, because it's 2 less games going into next season. Playing 2 early games like that, yes, it could benefit you to try to get guys in form, mid-season form earlier rather than later. But again, you play 2 more games. That's 2 more games that you can have players get injured. But going to getting the top 3 is probably the most important for at least myself as a fan going into the rest of the season. Tell me what you guys think about that. Is top 3? Can we get second place? Will second place be a step in the right direction, considering of what we had to go through this season? I know United fans and Liverpool fans are crying about injuries, but look at our injury record. I mean, it's been pathetic, especially even this season. It pretty much, again, lost us the league for the second straight year. But is finishing second or even third, is that a step in the right direction, considering what we had to go through this season? So let me know at your comments on that, and if you want to stick around and hear about my trip to London, you're more than welcome to. If you don't want to, that's fine, and that's fine and dandy. But I'm going to talk a little bit about going to the Emirates, going to the Arsenal Museum, at the game, like little tidbits of the game, going into like the rest of the week there, and all the things that I saw and the things I wasn't able to get to see as well. But that'll be coming up a little bit here